Good morning. My name is Tara, and I would like to thank you for attending this morning's Dharma Family and Spring Ohigon service. We will begin this service with a moment of quiet sitting. Reverend Kuwahara will strike the bell, and we will sit for 1 or 2 minutes to quiet our minds and prepare to hear the Dharma. Then he will strike the bell again, and we will continue with the service.
Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namanda Butsu, Namanda Butsu, Namanda Butsu, Namanda Butsu.
Reverend Kuwahara will now chant the Sambujo, followed by the dedication Hyo Byakumon, and then we will chant Hanju-san.
Namanda Butsu, Namanda Butsu. 無常十法如来入道上三へ標脈 dedication. I speak in veneration before the sacred image of Amida Tathagata of great compassion. Let us reflect upon our lives which have been guided since the past distance to Amida Buddha's Pure Land. During the spring and autumn equinoxes, the sun sets directly in the west and calls us to clarify the direction of our lives as we aspire for the realization of the peace and the tranquility of nirvana in Amida Buddha's Pure Land. I hereby state our humble wish to be illuminated by the Buddha's great compassion. Namo Amida Butsu. 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 Namo Amida Butsu.し心奇妙来西方阿弥陀仏南無阿弥陀仏南無阿弥陀仏南無阿弥陀仏南無阿弥陀仏南無阿弥陀仏南釈迦如来心法道少女少言無償税移動者馬墳家に発想上分道修上惑説人伝二乗法惑説菩薩涅槃に惑前惑頓妙空人望二小見相上根性利や社会無やどんごん無知難介護ナモ阿弥陀仏ナモ阿弥陀仏 ナモアミダンブナモアミダンブナ有楽教知有戦前下有万語祝小不体官業海だ教とうせ即税とんげうぼ大蔵一日七日戦勝仏妙断主優勝安楽一に海だね半語即徳不大小無所万語祝日難属一時煩悩百千言脈大社場小母に六道五邪公未語ナモアミダンブナモアミダンブナアミダンブナモアミダンブナモアミダンブナモアミダンブナモアミダンブナモアミダンブナミダインジホシンジトンシャオイグボダイネウオブショラクシュホンシュケシュドミョウホウゾ四十八願陰寺ポツ一日誓願一種上種母小言妙極楽広大観病無限量ナモアミダンブナモアミダンブナモアミダンブナモアミダンブ長徳菩提等身座天狗五差道修上心相公明聖法界高所義有所皆無や いちいち光明創造せう生脈念仏往生によく非実法勝負国極楽安心実税所南無阿弥陀仏南無阿弥陀仏南無阿弥陀仏南無阿弥陀仏南無阿弥陀仏南無阿弥陀仏な本師釈迦四不行上寺上皇道修上一切如来説法弁躍動今日釈迦尊随喜説法皆無や各徳語下に右心門門門不動八魔四滅無明過語因霊見即是弥陀語一生少年在会場南無阿弥陀仏南無阿弥陀仏南無阿弥陀仏なふもみだぐぜりきがじがこう出社はじといらい上法来現見如来に門母心上十分起源非がこ今日四法国実税シャバ本師益脈非本師知識観弥陀浄土運河に徳正浄土法師音南無阿弥陀仏南無阿弥陀仏南無阿弥陀仏南無阿弥陀仏南無 Namo Amidambu. Namo Amidambu. Namo Amidambu. Namo Amidambu. Namo Gamni Shikudoku Byoudo Seisai Douhoten Bodaishim Ojo Anlako. Namandavts, 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 namandavts,
Please join us in singing the Gatha, Higan 1.
The purest time in nature's realm, in the early spring and fall. These are the days when hearts of life become one with self and all. In the spring, the gentle breezes, most sustaining way, lifts our longing spirit beyond the toils of life. The purest time in nature's realm, in the early spring and fall. These are the days when hearts of life become one with self and all. The autumn sky, its golden haze, its radiant splendor, tells our searching heart the flow of nature's ways.
Please join me in reciting the Three Treasures 1. Three Treasures 1. Hard is it to be born into human life. Now we are living it. Difficult is it to hear the teachings of the Blessed One. Now we hear it. If we do not realize the truth in this life, when will it be realized? Let us reverently take refuge in the three treasures of the truth. I take refuge in the Buddha. May we absorb ourselves in the principle of the way to enlightenment and awaken in ourselves the supreme will. I take refuge in the Dharma. May we be submerged in the depths of the doctrine and gain wisdom as deep as the ocean. I take refuge in the Sangha. May we live in harmony in the great assembly as disciples of Buddha and be freed from all hindrances. becoming units of true accord in the life of harmony, in a spirit of universal oneness, freed from the bondage of selfishness. Even through myriad ages of kalpas, hard is it to hear such an excellent, profound, and wonderful doctrine. Now we are able to hear and receive it. Let us thoroughly understand the true meaning of Tathagata's teaching. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo. Reverend Kuwahara will now introduce our guest speaker.
Good morning, everyone. おはようございます。Thank you for attending today's Spring Ohigan Equinox Day service. ね、ありがとうございます。So I'm really happy and excited to introduce today's guest speaker. So today we have a Reverend Dean Koyama Sensei. So Sensei was born and raised in Sacramento, California. He went to UC Davis, and then after that, he started the study of Jodo Shinshu and Buddhism. So he went to IBS and the Institute of Buddhist Studies, which is a graduate school of Buddhism, Jodo Shinshu Buddhism. And then he also went to Japan to study at the Ryukoku University in Kyoto. And then after he came back from Japan, he became a Kaikyoshi minister of the Buddhist Churches of America. And his first assignment was Seattle Basin, 1989. I was, I think, middle school, kana. Yeah, I was born 1975. So yeah, Sensei started his ministry in 1989. So I was 14 years old. Yeah. And then after that, he was assigned to Tacoma and then Mountain View. And then from 2013, he started his ministry, his assignment started at the Palo Alto, the Buddhist temple, 2013. So he has 33 years as a Kaikyoshi minister. So he has a lot of experience, and then he's such a nice heart, warm heart, and then really wonderful, nice sensei. And then sensei, so I have 3 boys. And then Koyama Sensei also have 3 boys. Yeah. So this is a kind of coincidence. But anyway, so I hope you will enjoy Koyama Sensei's Dharma message for Dharma School student. Okay. 先生よろしくお願いします。
Good morning, everyone. It's very, very nice. I'm very, very excited to be here as well. This is my first time being at another temple since the pandemic started. So I feel very, very fortunate to have been invited here by Reverend Kuwahara to join all of you in this spring Ohigan service. He mentioned that he was born in 1975. That's the year I graduated from high school. So you can see how big of an age difference we have here. Okay. As many of you already know, Higan is the reference to the other shore of Amida Buddha's Pure Land of Utmost Joy. And this is in contrast to the term Shigan that refers to this shore of delusion, ignorance, greed, and anger. The Higan service is to remind us to observe the perfections of the 6 paramitas of dana, selfless giving, sila, discipline or morality, kshanti, patience, virya. Kshanti is patience, virya is endeavor, dhyana is insight or meditation, and prajna, which is wisdom. And through the perfection of the 6 paramitas, one is able to cross over from the shore of delusion and arrive upon the shore of enlightenment or nirvana. And again, as Kuwahara Sensei mentioned, Higan is observed twice a year at the equinoxes of autumn and spring, which was just last week. And so this is the ideal time for practice. There is a sense of balance because the length of day and night are equal. The temperature is neither too hot nor too cold. There are no external things to inhibit one's practice. The perfection of the 6 paramitas challenges and awakens us to our limitations and our ultimate potential. They teach us about the human limitations of an egocentric, self-serving self. And at the same time, they reveal the infinite and boundless wisdom and compassion of a power that is beyond this limited and finite self. A couple of years ago, I'd given an Ohigan sermon at my temple, at the Palo Alto temple, and I mentioned, that the terms Higan is the other shore of enlightenment or the pure land of utmost joy. Shigan refers to the shore of suffering, of birth, the shore of sorrow, of birth and death. It refers to this world, right? And so I emphasize to the Dharma school children the words Higan and Shigan, right? As opposites, just like he and she. Okay? So later I heard from one of my temple families, and this family is very matriarchal, meaning the family is dominated by a lot of females. And so this one family, the grandmother had 3 daughters. Kuwahara Sensei mentioned that both of us have 3 sons. This family had 3 daughters, okay? The oldest daughter had 3 girls. The second daughter also had 3 girls. And then the youngest daughter had a boy and a girl. So there's only one boy among all the other grandkids, right? And so the one boy of the family who is dominated by all the females is talking to his mom, his mother, and his aunt. And the boy boastingly says to both of them, he goes, "Hey, did you hear Reverend's sermon? He said that he refers to enlightenment and she refers to ignorance." And the boy's mom says to the aunt, to put the boy in his place, she says, "Well, I think what the Reverend was saying was he thinks he's above all else and she is the normal person." But the boy, trying to defend himself, comes right back and quips, "But the Reverend said Shigan refers to ignorance." And then the aunt clarifies it all by telling the boy, "Shigan is real people. Okay? Higan is in your dreams," right? I thought this was a very, very wonderful way of looking at how these 2 terms, Higan and Shigan, interact with each other. But in a way, I think that, what this is really trying to show us is it's a matter of perspective of how one looks at things. There's this very famous parable of a traveler. He's walking a long ways out in the wilderness, and he's traveled a great many miles. And so he comes upon a river. And, there's no one around him, and he sees no way to cross because the river's too wide, it's too deep, and the water is flowing too fast. And so he looks up one riverbank, and he's saddened to discover that there's no bridges or boats to cross over. And then he looks down the other way, down the riverbank, and again, no way for him to cross. But as he looks over across the river, he sees a Buddhist monk walking along the riverbank on the other side as well. And he calls out to the monk and he asks, "Please, O wise one, please tell me how I can cross to the other shore." And the Buddhist monk thinks and he ponders and he answers, "Oh, well, you're already on the other side." Right? So again, it's a matter of perspective. Back in November, one of our senpai retired ministers, Reverend Sancho Inouye, passed away. And some of you may have known Reverend Inouye, as he served over 40 years in the Buddhist churches of America. He served at Oakland, at the Placer Buddhist Temple, Los Angeles, Fowler, and at San Jose. And even after he had retired from active ministry, he continued to serve the many temples in the Central Valley, at Fowler and at Parlier. A number of years ago, he had asked me to come and be a guest speaker for him when where I was to speak at the Parlier Buddhist Temple in the morning and at Fowler later that afternoon, that same afternoon. And it's typical that, before the sermon or Howa, someone usually, like the resident minister, like Reverend Kuwahara just did, introduces the guest speaker. And I didn't know Reverend Inouye very well, but I respected him as being one of our more senior ministers in the BCA. And I thought he was kind of an eccentric character because whenever all the ministers in the BCA would gather for a meeting or a summer study seminar in August, he would greet each one of us with a hearty Happy New Year and shake our hands. And of course, he went on to explain, every day is a new day. Every day is the start of a new year. And so, if you think about it, what he was doing, I think, and what he was saying is a very, very profound statement. Happy New Year, to greet each person with Happy New Year, no matter what day it is. Because in reality, it is, a new day. It's a Happy New Year, right? So anyway, Reverend Inouye, right before I was to speak at the Parlier Buddhist Temple, he introduced me with the usual where I was born, where I went to school, which temples I served, just like what Reverend Kuwahara just did for me just this morning. And then he tells his Sangha members, he says, "We're very fortunate to have Reverend Koyama be our speaker this morning because not only is he extremely busy, but also because he's the most handsomest minister of the BCA." Why are you laughing? I noticed that Reverend Kuwahara didn't introduce me that way. So I sheepishly got up to speak and tried to shake off his compliment by saying, I think Sensei needs new glasses. But I still appreciated that comment. I then continued on with my Dharma message, which I thought went up pretty well. And after some refreshments after the morning service, Reverend Inouye reminded me that I should get on my way to go to the Fowler for their afternoon service. So I said, okay. And so I asked Sensei, "Well, aren't you coming too?" And he replied, "No, the Fowler members will take care of you." Okay, so I went to the Fowler Temple that afternoon. We had the service. And after I gave my Dharma talk, I was enjoying some tea and refreshments, with the members after the service. And then a woman came up to me and said, "Hi, Sensei, I heard you had to speak at Parlier this morning." And I said, yeah, I did. And she continued and she asked, "Well, did Reverend Inouye introduce you as the most handsomest minister in the BCA?" And I go, "Yeah, he did. How did you know?" And she says, "Well, even though I think that may be true, that's how he introduces all the guest speakers." And when I heard that, my ego just plummeted. Right? Usually, we try to project an image of ourselves as good, decent human beings. And we try to present ourselves, a positive side of ourselves so that we can make a good impression. We may know that we are not the most beautiful or the sexiest person on earth, but we don't consider ourselves the ugliest either, right? However, it's so very easy for our egos to become inflated with the smallest of compliments. I was riding high that someone thought that I was handsome. Then I discovered that he thinks everyone is. When I first heard that Reverend Inouye introduced all of his male guest speakers as the most handsome, my ego fell because I no longer felt special. I was jolted back to reality. And this is the world, the shore of delusion and ignorance. This is where we let our ego of self-centeredness dictate how we perceive this world. This bothered me for a while, but after really thinking about it, is it such a bad thing that this person, Reverend Inouye, thinks everyone, including me, is handsome or beautiful? That to me is the true world of compassion. And to have that perspective is truly living an awakened life. May we all feel beautiful and handsome, because from the eyes of enlightenment, from the perspective of the Buddha, we all are. Gassho. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namandabs. Namandabs. Namandabs.
Thank you, Reverend Koyama, for your Dharma message for the students. I will now read the announcements. And so for Thursday, March 31st at 6:30 p.m., we will have BBT monthly study session Dharmanar. The topic is Nambutsu. On Sunday, April 3rd, we will have our monthly Shotsuki Memorial Service and also a yoga session immediately after the service. On Wednesday, April 20th at 7 p.m., we will have a meditation and discussion session. The Satsuki Bazaar fundraiser and bento sales. Your participation is greatly appreciated. Please visit the temple website for the details. The last day to donate and order bento is May 13th. Sunday services will resume in person with precautions on Sunday, April 3rd, as well as live streamed. Online reservations are required for indoor seating, and you can find the sign-up link on our website. And we look forward to seeing you either in person or virtually. All right, so now the students will be dismissed to their Zoom classes. We will now have an adult Dharma talk by Reverend Koyama.
Okay. So this. Okay. Namandabs, 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 namandabs. Okay. So please join me in Gassho. Further, someone on the western bank calls to him, "O traveler with a mind that is single and determined, come at once, I will protect you. Have no fear of plunging to grief in the water or fire." The traveler, having heard these words spoken to him, decides that he must venture forward immediately. He gives no backward glances. He thinks only of the path and advances directly forward with a mind that is single and determined. And he is able to cross the river, reaching the western bank, where he is freed forever of all afflictions, and his joy is boundless. Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Mandabs, Namo. Good morning, everyone. Once again, I'd like to thank you for this kind invitation to join you in this observance of your spring Ohigan service. Can you believe that we have completed 2 full years since our temples have closed their doors back on, I believe it was March 17, 2020. And who would have thought that it would take this long to try to figure out, a way to live with these conditions? And I'm very, very happy that perhaps we're returning to a sense of normalcy. I'm glad that your temple is going to be able to open up again to in-person services next week, next Sunday. Palo Alto, I think we're targeting April 17th, our Hanamatsuri observance for our opening. So again, it's very nice to be able to return to that sense of normalcy, but unfortunately, at the same time, dealing with this pandemic, we're also dealing with a lot of chaotic circumstances, that the whole world is currently facing. I know that many of us have been undergoing a lot of stress and worry. It's natural to worry and have anxiety due to the situation of the unprovoked military attack on Ukraine. I cannot imagine what I would do, if my home or our country had been invaded. Where would we go? Who would we turn to for help? How would we survive if our homes had been destroyed by missiles and bombs? I think that, like many of you who have these same worries and anxieties, where do we find solace, comfort, and hope for things to get better? It is, of course, important that we acknowledge these feelings of insecurities and fears. And for many of us, we turn to the Dharma for help in trying to find a sense of stability and hope in the midst of this chaos. But sometimes I think that, we may all need to take a break from all that outside stimuli that is so depressing and so unsettling. And that is why often the Buddha and the monks would go off and retreat into the forest, for a period of solitary and quiet meditation. The purpose was not to escape from the realities of what was going on in the world, but more so to be able to perhaps reset so that one could look at things, so that one could look at those realities with a different perspective. Again, the idea of Higan is crossing over from the shore of delusions and ignorance to the other shore of enlightenment. But I think a deeper meaning of Higan simply means to look at things from the perspective of enlightenment. Sometimes I think we look at things from the perspective of ignorance, greed, and anger. And I think this becomes especially apparent when we face truly difficult situations, when we think we are totally helpless and hopeless, such as ending the war in Ukraine, overcoming systemic racism, enduring the seemingly unending pandemic, and experiencing violence in our neighborhoods. Oftentimes it seems that we're totally unable to do anything that might help to resolve any of these crucial issues. And in no way am I trying to minimize the severity of each of these problems. But today I thought perhaps we could take a little break. How many of you play games on your phone? I have to admit that I must be a very boring person because I don't play the new games like Minecraft or Candy Crush or Angry Birds or NBA 2K22. Usually I just play solitaire or do a crossword puzzle. But recently, my wife Linda introduced me to a new daily puzzle on my phone. And it's not an app, but you have to go to the NewYorkTimes.com, and it's called, oh, it won't go. Oh, it's called this, Wordle. Have you ever played it? Have any of you played it? Okay. You know, we're obsessed with it. As soon as we wake up, we both try to solve the puzzle and see who can solve it, with the least attempts. And this morning's Wordle was really difficult. I thought it took me 5 tries. But this is how it works. You have 6 attempts to guess a 5-letter word, with feedback given from each guess in the form of colored tiles, indicating when letters match or occupy the correct position. Oh, what happened? Okay, so like, for example, if this word, if you use this word guess, right? The green tile means that letter is correct and in the proper position. The U means the green tile means it's correct and in the proper position. The gray represents a letter that's not used in the answer. The E means the yellow means that letter is in the answer but not in the right place, right? So if you were to use other words like which, none of these letters are in the answer, okay? Craze, again, the A and E is in, but they're not in the right position. Joins shows that the S is in the correct position. And finally, the time, the MES is in the right position. And finally, the answer, based upon all these is games. So this is kind of how this game works, right? So it's a really, really fun game, and of course these what I have shown on here, this is the advertisement for this game in the New York Times. So games which craze, guess which craze joins the Times games, right? So that was kind of an advertisement for this particular game. And again, like I said, I feel like we're very obsessed with it. But this game kind of, when I was playing this game, it kind of made me think about an email that of another kind of puzzle that someone had emailed to me some years ago. And I thought I'd like to share that particular puzzle with all of you. And it begins many years ago in a very small country village. A farmer had the misfortune of owning a large sum of money to a village moneylender. Oh, and this story is called The Farmer's Daughter and the Two Pebbles. The Farmer's Daughter and the Two Pebbles, right? And so this moneylender was old and ugly, but he fancied the farmer's beautiful daughter. So he proposed a bargain, and he said he would forego the farmer's debt if he could marry his daughter. And both the farmer and daughter were horrified by the proposal. So the cunning moneylender suggested that they let fate decide the matter. They happened to be standing on a pebble path in the farmer's field. And he told them that he would put a black pebble and a white pebble into an empty money bag. And then the girl would have to pick one pebble from the bag. So if she picked the black pebble, she would become his wife, and her father's debt, but her father's debt would be forgiven. If she picked the white pebble, she wouldn't have to marry him, and still the farmer's debt would be forgiven. It would be forgiven. Okay. But if she refused to pick any pebble, then her father would be thrown into jail. Okay? So, of course, the ideal outcome that everyone, or the farmer and the daughter, had wanted was to be able to pick the white pebble. But as the moneylender bent over to pick up the 2 pebbles, the sharp-eyed girl noticed that he had picked up 2 black pebbles and put them into the bag, right? So then he asked the girl to pick a pebble from the bag, and the only possible outcome would be that the girl would pick a black pebble and be forced to marry the old man. Now, so imagine if you were standing in that field, what would you do if you were the girl? If you had to advise her, what would you have told her? So, the careful analysis would produce at least 3 possible scenarios, right? The girl should refuse to take a pebble, but that wouldn't solve anything, right? The father would still be thrown into jail. The girl should show that there were 2 black pebbles in the bag and expose the moneylender as being a cheat. But that still wouldn't nullify the debt that the farmer owed, and still he would be thrown into jail. And the third scenario, let's see, can I go back? The third scenario is that the girl should pick a black pebble and sacrifice herself in order to save her father from the debt and imprisonment. So again, what would you do if you were the farmer's daughter? Right? Well, here's what she did. Okay, the girl put her hand into the money bag and drew out a pebble. But without looking at it, she fumbled it as she drew her hand out of the bag and let the pebble fall onto the ground, right? Where it was immediately became lost, among all the other pebbles. How clumsy of me, she said. But never mind. If you look into the bag for the one that is left, you'll be able to tell which pebble I picked. So what pebble would have been left in the bag, right? The black one, right? So then that would mean that she had picked the white one, even though there wasn't a white one in the bag, right? And so, the moneylender dared not admit his dishonesty, and so, in a sense, the girl was able to change what seemed an impossible situation into an advantageous one. Okay? The moral of the story is that most complex problems do have a solution. But I like to look at it as this too. Things don't change, but you can change your way of looking at it. For Shinran, he came across a totally hopeless and helpless situation. He was at a crossroads of deciding whether to stay on Mount Hiei, or where he had been training for the past 20 years, but he felt no closer to attaining enlightenment than when he had started. Should he venture off and seek a new way or find a new teacher? He discovered a parable that he felt mirrored his situation. And it goes like this, and I'm sure many of you are aware of this parable. Suppose there is a traveler journeying over 100,000 miles toward the west, when suddenly he comes upon 2 rivers in a single channel. One is a river of fire and extends to the south. The other is one of water extending north. The river is 100 paces across, immeasurably deep and endless. And dividing the river of fire and water is a single white path, 4 or 5 inches wide. The path from the eastern bank to the western bank is 100 paces in length, but billows of water surge over the path, and flames sweep up to scorch it. Now this traveler has already ventured many miles without seeing anyone, but all of a sudden he sees a band of robbers and wild beasts that have snuck up behind him and threatened to kill him. Fearing for his life, the traveler at once flees toward the west when, without warning, he comes upon this great river of water and fire. And he reflects, I see no end to this river, either to the north or the south. In the middle is a white path, but it's too narrow to cross. How can I cross? Assuredly this day I shall perish. If I turn back, the robbers and beasts will get me. If I venture on the path westward, I will plunge into the river of fire and water. There are no words to express the terror and despair that fills him at this point. He thinks to himself, if I turn back now, I will die. If I remain here, I will die. If I go forward, I will die. And there's no way for me to escape death. Therefore, I choose to go forth, venturing on this path. Since this path exists, it must be possible to cross. When this thought occurs to him, he suddenly hears an encouraging voice from someone on the eastern bank, saying, "O traveler, just resolve to follow this path forward. You will certainly not encounter the grief of death, but if you stay where you are, you will surely die." And further, someone on the western bank calls to him, "O traveler with a mind that is single and determined, come at once. I will protect you. Have no fear of plunging into the river of fire or water." The traveler, having heard these words spoken to him, decides that he must venture forward immediately. He gives no backward glances. He thinks only of the path and advances directly forward with a mind that is single and determined. And he is able to cross the river, reaching the western bank, where he is freed forever of all afflictions, and its joy is boundless. This is the parable. And this parable is used by Shinran Shonin, the founder of our Jodo Shinshu tradition, to describe a state of mind one has when one has awakened to the realities of human life. This may sometimes be referred to as the mind of faith or Shinjin, but Buddhism, Jodo Shinshu Buddhism especially, is a religion based not on faith or belief. It's a religion based upon experience, life's experiences. Life's experiences reveals the truth of human life. And I believe that this parable also influenced his decision when he was at a crossroads and didn't know whether to stay on Mount Hiei or descend from the mountain and seek a new beginning. I think each one of us, if each one of us looks back upon our lifetime of experiences, we will discover that we had to make some very critical decisions. Some, I'm sure, were very difficult ones to make. Where should I go to college? Who should I marry? Should I change careers now? Can I afford to buy a house now? All of these decisions require great thought. Some may have worked out, others may not have. And like the traveler who is at a crucial point in his journey, he must make a decision to go forward, stay where he is, or try to go back, realizing the consequences of staying in one place or going back is to face certain death. The traveler chooses to go forward with a mind of determination, and with this determined attitude, the traveler has decided to accept the consequences of his decisions and move forward so that he can cross over to the other shore. Oftentimes, when we're faced with difficult situations, we may not know what to do. Sometimes we let the fear of the unknown prevent us from moving either forward or back. And we know that staying still will not change the situation either. There are times when the difficulties that we face may seem insurmountable. Perhaps by changing our perspective slightly, we may be able to find a different approach, like the farmer's daughter. Perhaps it may not be the answer for the total situation, but maybe it's something small that we can do now at this moment. We may not have the ability to say, end the war in Ukraine. But perhaps we can still find something to do to help, like help the refugees. Perhaps it's by changing our perspective. Perhaps by changing our perspective, we can find a way, even if it feels small, where we're still able to recognize the humanity in one another, whether friend or foe, and extend a bit of wisdom and compassion. For me, The season of Higan allows us the opportunity to try to practice giving, discipline, patience, endeavor, meditation, and wisdom. Perhaps not on the scale to change the world directly, but possibly we can change it with our interactions with one another, one person at a time. Perhaps simply by treating others with kindness and respect, by acknowledging their presence, their value, their wisdom and compassion then will touch their lives so that they will pass it on and touch the lives of others as well with wisdom and compassion. Ohigan allows us to change our perspective and look at things from the side of enlightenment. It is a perfect time to see and accept things just as they are, and then move accompanied by a heart of wisdom and compassion. And when we're able to do that, we truly have crossed over to the other shore of Higan. And so once again, may I ask you to join me in Gassho. Further, someone on the western bank calls to him, "O traveler with a mind that is single and determined, come at once, I will protect you. Have no fear of plunging to grief in the water of fire." The traveler, having heard these words spoken to him, decides that he must venture forward immediately. He gives no backward glances. He thinks only of the path and advances directly forward with a mind that is single and determined, and he's able to cross the river, reaching the western bank, where he is freed forever of all afflictions, and his joy is boundless. Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namandabs, 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 Namandabs.
Thank you, Koyama Sensei, for wonderful Dharma messages. I think it is really wonderful to have guest speakers, especially experienced ministers like Koyama Sensei. So today you've listened to many wonderful stories and then very important messages of the Dharma Jodo Shinshu teaching. So once a week, Berkeley Buddhist Temple or many other Jodo Shinshu temple has a Sunday service. And then this is the occasion. Our temple is a place where we can listen the voice of Amida Buddha, how Buddha sees this world. And then we receive the message, words from Enlightened One, Buddha. And then that helps us to see this world better, more clearly. So that's why I think temple, this Dharma gathering is very, very important. 本当小山先生ありがとうございました。Thank you very much for your wonderful message. You can come every week for giving a Dharma message for me. はい。So now I'd like to say thank you to all those who have made today's service possible. Thank you, Tara, for being a chairperson for today's service. ありがとうございました。Thank you very much. And then thank you, Bradley, and then Myron, for your help during today's live streaming service. ありがとうございました。And then thank you, Tani, for monitoring the chat room on the YouTube channel today. And then also wonderful message, singing a song. And then Dharma School teacher, thank you very much for guiding Dharma School student. I think you're still in the class. Giving a class to Dharma School students. But thank you very much, Dharma School teachers. And then thank you, music team, for the beautiful music for today's service. And then thank you, Naho-san. I think some of you noticed a beautiful flower in the altar. So that is a beautiful flower by なおさんね。ありがとうございました。はい。So this concludes today's service. Thank you everyone for joining the service today. We hope you will all have a wonderful week, Sunday afternoon, and then see you next Sunday, which is our first, not first, but in person, and then virtual, like hybrid service next week. ありがとうございます。ナワンダブツナワンダブツナワンダブツナワンダブツナワンダブツ。ありがとうございました。Thank you very much.